Well, good afternoon. I'm Marcy, one of the librarians at the Santa Clara County Library District, and welcome to Farm to Fork Fall Cooking. In your email with the Zoom information, there was an attachment with all the recipes Chef Laura is preparing today. Not only will Chef Laura be making healthy, better tasting dishes with fall fruits and vegetables today, she's giving another program on Saturday, December 4th at 2 p.m. called Home for the Holidays, preparing side dishes. So be sure to register at sccld.org/events. Now we're going to get started with today's program with Chef Laura Stec. Welcome, Laura.
Hey, Santa Clara County Library. How are you? Good to have you here at Kitchen TV, broadcasting live from Portola Valley, California. Kitchen TV, we like to stir things up. Welcome to my kitchen. It's great to have you here. Great to be back teaching with the libraries. And we have a fun class today. I assume that people are cooking along, Marcy, but maybe they didn't get the recipes ahead of time. What do we know about that?
I did send the recipes yesterday to the people who had registered kind of late yesterday, so they may or may not have had time to get everything gathered together.
All right.
But we're assuming that they can go back and watch the video again once they're all ready to go.
Absolutely. Please remember that in any of these online classes, you can always cook along. You can also just take one dish and cook along because sometimes it's a lot to do and watch and prep for. I try to keep the prep low, but and you can also refer to the video afterwards should you want to slow the pace down a little bit. We do have a lot we're doing in an hour's time, but let's try to get some good holiday recipes in. I do encourage questions. I know the chat box has been disabled, but definitely using the question and answer. You can send in a question. Good questions include, I can't eat that, I don't like that, give me substitutions and options. And we can certainly stay afterwards for questions should we need to. All right, Santa Clara Library. We're going to start off with a question that I'm going to ask you. And it's all about why eat seasonal. And the question is, how old do you think the average apple is in your big box grocery store, in your Safeways, in your Targets? How old is that apple? Can you think about that for a little bit and let's get started and we'll revisit that because that's such a good reason why we want to think about seasonal eating. All right, so we're going to do two dishes today. We're going to do a fall cassoulet, which is just a wonderful dish. I know it's warm today in Northern California, but a couple days ago, this was the perfect dish. And it's a great dish because it brings in so many elements of what we can find at the farmer's market this weekend, actually. And we're also going to be doing a seasonal salad, a perfect salad for Thanksgiving, should you be interested, a grilled persimmon and spinach frisee salad with some homemade candy nuts that are your next gift to give your friends because they're that kind of nut that people want for gifts. And let's begin. All right, so we're going to begin with getting the onion cooking and sauteing. Because anytime that we want to eliminate or reduce our animal products, and for those of you who do not know, I'm the author of a book called Cool Cuisine, Taking the Bite Out of Global Warming. And so I've been writing about food and environment issues long before it was sexy. And we want to reduce our meat consumption. Not only is it good for our health, but it's good for the health of the animals and for the planet. And we want to learn, therefore, when we're reducing or maybe even eliminating animal products from our diet, how we can develop flavor because vegetables need just a little bit more understanding to bring the flavor out. And certainly working with onions can start with that off. Now I'll take the overhead shot, Marcy, and I'm going to say the first thing we want to do in getting our onion is we just want to take these little stickers off, because these silly little stickers still don't biodegrade, which means that they're clogging up our compost systems. And one of you young people who's on the audience, or maybe somebody who's got some children, should, for the kids science project, somebody's got to figure out how to make a biocompostable produce sticker, please. But until that point, you want to take it away and throw it away. All right, so we're going to cut off the bottom and the top of this onion. While we say that, onions have acids that when we touch them fly up into the air, and then they can fall into our eyes. That's why we cry, right? And it's a terrible thing. Who likes to do that? Gets in the way of cooking, cutting. So what we want to do is touch this onion as little as possible. And the way we do that is with a sharp knife, which we talk about that in the knife class. We're not having a knife class today, but it's really good to start with a sharp knife. And the other thing that reduces those acids is just touching the onion less. So here's a system to dice your onion. I want to take the part of my onion that's connected to the plant, and that is this little yellow knobby, and put that in the back. And then take my knife and start cutting horizontally into the onion. Now, not all the way through, about 3/4 of the way through, so you leave something in the back to hold the onion together. Now, I want larger pieces of onion slices, so I'm only going to put in an additional slice here. But please remember, the more the slice, the smaller the dice. Now take your knife the opposite way and cut through vertically, not all the way through, about 3/4 of the way through, leaving you with a checkerboard that then can very simply be cut down to the size of the onion you want. And when you get to the part of the onion that was not cut, flip that guy down, cut it into a plank or some type of a rectangle, and then you can cut around that yellow knobby if you choose. And then you have approximately onions that are the same size. Why is that important to have onions approximately the same size? Because they cook in the same time, and that's a good thing. All right. Now we're going to go over to the stove shop, please, Marcy. And I've got a not nonstick pan you'll see here. That's because I actually want things to stick, and we'll talk about that longer. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. Oh, excuse me, I think I have about a tablespoon of butter in there, and 2 tablespoons of some extra virgin olive oil that is filtered. Non-filtered has a slower smoke point, so we don't want to saute with our non-filtered olive oils, but our extra virgin filtered, absolutely fine. Smoke point of 375 to 425. I'm going to use what part of my knife to move these onions into my cutting board? Do I move my onions like this with this part, the front part, or do I use the back part of my knife when I'm trying to do that? What part of the knife do I use? I use the back part of the knife. Why? I don't want to scrape my cutting board. I don't want to dull my knife. You worked hard to get an edge on that knife. You want to keep it. We'll mix that baby up. We're going to take a flat wooden spoon. Oh, it's the holidays. So guess what? This is Laura's top 10 holiday gifts, and here's one of them. Flat wooden spoon. Why do we want to use a flat wooden spoon instead of a round? Why do we want to use a flat wooden spoon? Because a round wooden spoon doesn't give us enough surface area. These guys, perfect holiday gifts, everybody. Everybody loves the smiley spoons. Get them online. All right, we're going to turn that temperature, to medium, maybe even a little lower, because low and slow gives us that opportunity to develop the intricacies of onions. One of the great seasonings in a plant-forward diet. All right, next we're going to move on to our nuts, our famous nuts, great for holiday gifts. We're going to get these babies in the in the oven. I've got about 3, let's see, you can give me the overhead shot if you want, please, Marcy. And I've got about 3 cups of walnuts here. Walnuts, of course, you can get them at the farmer's market. Old Dog is one of the farms that is in the area, and it's a fantastic local farm, and another great holiday gift are just local nuts. I've got a half a cup of maple syrup I'm going to put in here. Now, these nuts I've been doing for years because I wanted to get a candied nut that I didn't have to actually do a lot of work for. And these the candied nuts were the easiest nut that I ended up with. So to it, we're going to add some spices. So I've got about a teaspoon of cinnamon. I've got a teaspoon and a half of some cumin. If you really want a good flavor with your cumin, you want to toast the seeds first and then grind them. If you're moving fast like me today, you'll do you can do the already ground. Here's some cloves, half teaspoon. I'm going to do half teaspoon of some ginger, ground ginger. I'm going to do a little bit of cayenne pepper in there. Of course, that's optional for people that don't necessarily like cayenne. I'm going to get myself some nutmeg, freshly grated. Ooh, Laura's holiday gifts number 2, a microplane. A microplane that does such wonderful grating of cheeses and nuts and chocolate and nutmeg. They come in different sizes and shapes. They're fantastic holiday gifts. Of course, with nutmeg and things that we can grind fresh, that's our best option. Put those guys aside. I'm going to go look over at the stove and give a little stir to my onions. I might turn that temperature down a touch. Let's see. Oh, very good. Marcy's on the camera already. We got Marcy. Marcy's my Ed McMahon. If I'm the Johnny Carson, she's the Ed McMahon in the background. And you can just watch those guys simmer. The smell is really becoming strong. Oh, yeah. Good. And then back to my nuts here and back over to the overhead shot. I'm going to add my 1 teaspoon of salt. All right, and we're going to mix those guys up good. So yeah, what you want to do anytime you can with herbs and spices is you use fresh and use freshly grated. So that's the way to get super flavor. And if you are, and of course, whatever, you use what you use to get things done, and it's fine to save time with using ground spices. But don't use the spices that's been in your mother's cupboard since 1970 something, right? Spices should be used within a year. Some people say 6 months. So don't go to Costco and buy those huge things and never use them, right? You want small amount to use up. Spices for flavor, and flavor starts going down when it's exposed to oxygen. Spices oxidize. So don't buy a lot. And then I'm going to take a baking sheet, and I've lined it with what we call a silpat, or a permanent piece of parchment paper. You can also use parchment paper if you choose, but the silpat is a nice way to reduce that waste we don't need, and to be able to, it's a great gift too, a silpat. You can get most of these culinary gifts at places like Crate and Barrel and Cost Plus Imports. And then we'll just spread those nuts onto our parchment. And we'll pop these guys in a 350 oven. All right, let's look back at the stove shot. Now I'm starting to get some good color on here, and I'm also starting to get some fond, that brown stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pan. And that stuff's so important, the French gave it a name. They called it fond. And what we want to do in cooking is we want to bring that fond up back to our dish. We don't want to throw it out in the sink at the end of sautéing. That's the culinary gold. That's the dehydrated essence. So we take a liquid. It could be a wine, it could be a stock, but heaven help, it could be the drink you're drinking. It could be a beer. It could be apple juice if you're cooking for kids. And I don't add a lot of moisture. I only add enough to pick that fond up and put it back into the food and let those guys keep cooking. Okay. So now we can take either the overhead shot? Or, yeah, that's a good shot. Thanks, Marcy. We're going to start dicing our vegetables. And so I've got all kinds of winter vegetables here that I want to turn you on. And of course, this is where we get to be expressive in our cooking. We might use turnips. We might use rutabagas. We might use celery root, even though celery root is not my favorite. It takes a little longer to cook, by the way. Parsnips, winter squash. Here's one. Have you used kabocha yet? Kabocha, they say, is the sweetest squash in macrobiotics. That's what we learned. And yeah, carrot, fennel, whatever you got. About 3 cups is what you're looking for. So what I'm going to do is first start off with which something that's not in your recipe actually that I'm going to add today. It's celery. I don't have any celery in this recipe, and I wanted to add some because we've got a lot of starchy vegetables here. Nice, long, slow cooking, which is terrific. But I want to add a little bit of green into it, and so I'm going to add some celery. And here's a celery tip. I take the back of my celery and the front of my knife, and I just do a little notch, and then I can pull that strings off of the celery. Why would I do that? Why do I want to take the strings off the celery? My mom taught me this. Because those strings got caught in my tooth. I got caught in my teeth, and then I don't like it as much. So if I take the strings off of celery, we do a service to the toothiness of our meal. Now, anytime I have something rolls like a carrot, I can go, hey! So I don't want to do that with carrots. I want to cut myself a base. Zucchinis too. I want to cut myself a base and give that carrot some sturdiness, right? And then with my fingers, not out like this, and not my thumb sticking out either, but I want my fingers cut in and my thumb behind my fingers. This becomes my block for my knife. And then I don't even have to look at the cutting board. I can cut knowing that my fingers are safe. Okay. We could just, it doesn't really matter what kind of, they don't have to be all the same size. I would encourage you though, when you're doing this, that if you don't have enough time, which would be a good, I would say 20 minutes from the time you start the cooking of the vegetables. You don't have enough time to go that long. Sometimes you don't, you're going faster. Now I got parsnip. To make your pieces smaller so that they will, in the saute process, have enough time to soften. So rutabaga peeled. Usually the skin needs to be peeled. I did that beforehand. I'm just dicing up some of that. Oh, I got some turnip here. Turnip doesn't have to be peeled. If you use a nice vegetable brush, let me show you mine. I just got it. I really like it. Another Laura's favorite things, holiday gift, right? This cool vegetable brush, put your fingers in beneath it. It really gives a good ability to be able to get that, brush off, and then you don't necessarily have to peel certain things, only if it looks kind of crappy. So rutabaga, parsnip, turnip, winter squash, all cook approximately the same time. Here's our kabocha. And you know what's nice about kabocha? Especially if you're teaching a cooking class and you only got an hour, you don't have to take the skin off. Kabocha and delicata, this is half of a delicata. Delicatas look like burritos. Kabocha looks like pumpkin, except it's green. Both those you can eat the skin on. When you're first starting to eat more winter squash, I would take the skin off because you want to cook, if you're cooking for other people, because sometimes that skin, again, gets in my teeth, and I don't want that. I want to make sure that I have an opportunity for my eaters to enjoy and not get stuff stuck in their teeth. So after you get used to squash, you can leave the skin on. I've got more fond back here. Are we on the over? Oh, no, we're going to go back to the stove shot. I've got some fond on the stove here and on the pan, and so just a little bit of liquid. Again, any kind of liquid will do. The acid liquid, like a wine or a or a lemon or a lime will give you a little bit more, acidity to pick up that moisture. But you can use anything you want to pick up that fun. I'm going to add a little salt to my dish right now, and I'm going to cover it to kind of give it a kick starting. So we'll let that cover up. All right, let me clean up here. And we're going to go back over to the, you can give me the general shot or the overhead shot, Marcy. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the beans that we're going to put into the dish. Again, beans. Why do we want to eat more beans? We want to eat more beans. I want to eat more beans. So do you. The reason why is because we're starting to learn that we're not only feeding ourselves, we are feeding the microbiome that live in us and on us, that those bugs that are more, do you know that we've got more genetic material of the microbiome that are in us and on us than we do of ourselves? We are more them than us. So you better start feeding them. And what they eat is the carbohydrate, what they eat is the non-digestible plant fibers that come from plants. And if we don't eat plants or too many enough to feed them, not only may we get depressed, have digestive issues, have all kinds of issues that we're starting to learn that the microbiome are responsible for, helping breathing, digestion, mental health. But those guys will start eating the carbohydrate-rich lining of your small intestine. They start eating you. So feed them. Don't let them eat you. And we do that with plants, and we do that with beans. And of course, beans, as we get into as we get into less meat, we want to introduce beans. Now, overhead shot, please. I've got some cranberry beans here that are in the market. These are fresh beans. Fresh beans are not in as many farmers markets as we would like right now. I've had a hard time finding them. Farmers have told me they haven't had enough staff to plant some of the specialty products, but I did just find these at Sagona's in Redwood City. So the thing about fresh beans is they haven't been dried. They cook in about 15 minutes. It's very simple, just really sauteing and giving them a little moisture. Look online for a recipe. If you want one, you have my contact information. I usually include a fresh bean recipe in this class, but because they're just hard to find this year, instead, I'm going to use some dry beans. And I got these from Sagona's too. These are Christmas beans, large Christmas beans. And they cook up, after soaking them overnight, they cook up in about an hour and a half. And they're just a really nice, I like the big beans now. So you want to make sure when you're cooking them, these beans, dried beans, that you give enough time to soak overnight and that you give them enough time to cook, because there's nothing worse than getting into a bean that hasn't been cooked. So when I add my beans, I'm going to add a combination of some fresh thyme and some fresh sage. We're going to add that in. And I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of some Dijon mustard. And we'll add that all in about, we'll add it in maybe in about 5 minutes, because we want to put our casserole in the oven. Okay, so we're also going to add into our mix a little bit of wine and about 3/4 of a cup of chicken stock, vegetable stock, beef stock. Really, any kind of stock is fine. This is a great dish because if you don't have the vegetables, you can use what's in your refrigerator. If you don't have any vegetable stock, you can use chicken stock. It's interchangeable, and that's what we're looking for. The wine is a dry white wine. I know the recipe has the Neely Winery in it, and that is actually a local winery right here in Portola Valley. I'm a chef there. I work at the Neely Winery. Wonderful to know that we have agriculture in Portola Valley. Did you know that? And so definitely check the Neely Winery out if you're looking for another fun special gift. With the white wine, it could be, I like a Chardonnay, but anything that's not sweet. So a Chardonnay, a Sauvignon Blanc, a Pinot, a Grigio, any of those will be fine. All right, let's look on the back of our dish. Now, if I had a little bit more time, I'd let these guys go a little bit longer. because the recipe says do it for about, 10 minutes. But that's okay because we're going to just move the process ahead. We're going to deglaze our pan again because I've got that yummy fond. We're on the stove shot. Very good. Thank you, Ed McMahon. When you add any kind of deglazing liquid, you'll notice I'm just adding a little bit. And that's because vegetables have secrets, and the secret is that they are sweet and they caramelize when they all get a certain temperature. That temperature is 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. I'm going to add a little flour, about 3 tablespoons, to toast into it while I'm talking to you. So those secrets, vegetables are sweet, come out by the process of caramelization. Caramelization is what you're seeing on the bottom of this pan. And the temperature, again, for any vegetable to caramelize, because it is carbohydrates that are found in all vegetables, that temperature is 330 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. So are you smarter than a 5th grader? We're going to let that flour toast. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? What temperature does water boil at? 212 degrees, but secrets come out at 330 degrees. So 212, 330, if you boil and steam all your vegetables, your temperature doesn't get hot enough to bring out the secret. What is it? Vegetables are sweet. What temperature does it take? 330. Where do I get 330 in the kitchen? Oven, broiler, grill, saute. And so saute, when I add that moisture to pick up that fond, I don't want to add a lot of moisture, because what happens to my temperature? It'll go down to the boiling point of water. So I want to make sure that I've got my caramelization going before I start adding liquid. And then I don't want to add too much, because if I do, it'll just boil and I have to sit around and wait till most of it is boiled off to start the process of caramelization again. All right, so we're going to add our moisture. We're going to add our stock and our wine. Again, about a cup and a quarter of stock. No, a cup and 3/4. I turned the heat off because what we're doing here is we are going to mix up this dish. And I want to pick up the toasted flour now that also accompanies the bottom of the pan, the fond. But if I have the heat on, sometimes my goal is to not clump these sauces. And with the additional, if you've got the heat on too high and you're doing this process, you can often start having it thicken up too much and you get clumps. So the way to do it is turn off the heat and do it in little amounts, right? And when you start getting to the process where you see you've got a good mixture, you're not seeing clumps, you're picking up the majority of what's on the bottom, then you can add more in. So start off slow and then add more. I'm going to add in some garlic at this point. And I'm going to let that mixture just thicken up a little bit while I prepare the topping. All right, so I want about a medium heat because boiling is bad and simmering is good. That's one thing that I absolutely remember from culinary school. Boiling is bad, simmering is good. So we want the temperature to come up, and then we want to lightly blend the flavors by the process of a low simmer, a low boil, not boil, because the food wants to relax, right? All right, why don't I take the overhead shot? Now I'm going to put together our little cobbler crust. I'm going to do a switcheroo because I'm practicing with some new things on you guys. So the recipe says 3/4 of a cup all-purpose flour. It can be gluten-free or regular. You choose. Today's gluten-free flours really are one-on-one substitutions. But I've only put in a 1/2 cup of flour here, and I am going to add in, instead of that additional 1/4 cup of all-purpose gluten-free or regular flour, I'm adding some buckwheat flour, which, yes, it's buckwheat pancakes, to give us a little more whole grain, 2 tablespoons. And I just put some oat flakes in my Vitamix, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oat flour. Now, again, you can follow the recipe exactly as it is, but I'm practicing on you guys because I want to introduce some more whole grains into my flour mix. I'm going to add a little bit of cheese, about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to add another teaspoon of some seasoning, Dijon mustard, some salt, and some pepper. Now, for all you who say, oh, I don't want whole grain, I don't want grains at all, right? Because grains are making me weight and I'm on keto and I can't eat carbs and all that stuff. And I say, you know, it's not grains that are having you gain weight. Whole grains, you don't overeat. It's when the grains are highly, highly processed that we run into the problem of too much carbohydrate. So whole grains are actually your friend. We need to eat good whole carbohydrates. They are what our brains run on. And here I've got some butter. Now the recipe says cut into small bits. I've done this a little differently today too. You can follow the recipe absolutely, but I'm going to add the melted butter today because I want to see if there's a difference, if it has better combination. And I'm also going to add about 1/4 teaspoon of some baking powder and mix that baby up. Okay, so this is our topping. Again, follow the recipe exactly as it is, or if you want to add some whole grain, I added in oat flour that I just ground up from fresh oats, fresh oat flakes in the Vitamix. And I also added some buckwheat because 'tis the season. All right. I'm going to transfer my dish into my casserole into a medium-sized casserole dish. And if I can have the stove shot, please. I'm going to show you that, you know, we have a mix that could go a little bit longer. Again, we're going to put this in the oven so we can take something out before the end of class. But I have found that actually, even if our sauce is a little still, you know, runny, that it will reduce in the oven. And so the thing that you would want to be sure here is just take a fork and see if you're starting to have a give to your vegetables, right? Just kind of see if your fork's going to go through them. And if it does, then you're safe to transfer. And so we can have the overhead shot. Pouring that into, oh, you know what? We didn't add our beans, so I'm going to add our beans in. My bad. Let's see. Huh? That's funny. I'm just going to add them right in here. How about that? Our beans, our herbs. I could add them in the pot, obviously, but and a bay leaf. I have a bay leaf in there too. And I have some basil because I didn't have enough time. So you'll see some basil in here too. I wanted to use time for the salad dressing. Ah, smells great. Really good. Really nice smell. And then we're going to crumble our topping on top. Our topping that has some buckwheat flour and oats. And then the difference that I did was I melted the butter this time. And why did I do that? I want to see if it gives it a little bit more heft. I want the crust to have a little bit more of the clumpiness that you see here instead of the powderiness. I think that would be a better option. So I'm testing on you guys. How's everybody doing out there? Anybody cooking? All right. Yum. Okay, good. Oh, gosh, darn it. Nobody told me about the nuts. How is our nuts doing? Let's check our nuts out. How do our nuts look good? Boy, I got lucky on that one. Hold on. I was going to set the timer and I didn't, see? That's why you don't want to have parties, because cooking and talking take 2 different sides of the brain. Let me use this instead. So what camera do we got here? We got, oh, why don't you give me the oven. Okay, so these guys, you know, even with Laura not getting in and turning them, setting the timer, which of course, who hasn't done it, they're actually pretty good. You'll notice how they get sticky and they just become a real nice texture. So those guys, they'll crisp up when they get out, and when they cool down, they'll crisp up. So we'll let them do that off the side. We'll put our casserole into our oven. The oven is at 350 for the, hold on, for the cassoulet, 400. 350 for the nuts and 400 for the cassoulet. All right. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our salad. Our cassoulet is cooking, and I'm going to clean up a little bit here. So I studied at the Culinary Institute of America, School of Natural Cookery, Vega Macrobiotic Study Center. And at the Macrobiotic Study Center, my teacher, Cornelia Ihara, used to say that we have to clean up in between things because the vegetables and the fruits, they don't like to share the space. They like their own clean space. So out of respect to our fruits and vegetables, we clean up our board. Okay. All right, so we're going to grill a persimmon. And for those of you who are not familiar with these fuyu persimmons, these are more like apples. They are crunchy as compared to the hakaya, or you may say hachia, that persimmons that are soft like pudding. And these are perfect to grill, and what a perfect thing to do for the season. So I'm just going to cut off the top. And I'm going to cut off the bottom a little bit, just a little bit, because it looks prettier. And then I'll cut these guys into whatever shapes I want to. Sometimes I do into little cubes. For grilling though, you get the best results when you have more surface area because they're just easier to handle. So I'll take that and let me get some kind of a plate. Now you can use oil, you can use butter, but I'm going to use some ghee. I've got ghee here, which is a higher smoke point than butter because the milk fats have been taken away. And I like to grill with butter because I think it gives fruit. I like to grill fruits with butter because I think it gives them just a nicer flavor. And the ghee will raise the smoke point because the milk fats have been removed in ghee. So basically it becomes an oil. And if you want to heighten, you can add a little sprinkle of salt or a sprinkle of, even a sprinkle of sugar, should you want to do that, onto your fuyu persimmons. And then I'm just going to drop them on my grill pan and back. Now, same thing with boiling is bad, simmering is good. When it comes to fruits, you don't need high heat. So make sure that your grill is, I would say, on a lower end, a medium low. And then I like to put something on top of it. If I don't have a grill, if I'm not using the grill outside, which has a cover, if I'm grilling inside, what I like to do is put a little weight on it so that you get those pretty grill marks, and which you don't often get if you're grilling inside without something on top of it. All right. So we've got our nuts for our salad. We are grilling our persimmons, and now we're going to get together the salad itself and the dressing. So let's do that. All right, so for the salad, I just have some spinach, but I brought in some frisee. And I think frisee is an underutilized, really exciting green that you should incorporate into your holiday meals. It just looks good and it is exciting. It looks like you have fireworks in your food. So a little bit of frisee is a fantastic thing. You will get it not in bags, but in the actual salad aisle. So look for it. It kind of looks like a big firework that just has exploded. And with any kind of green that you get, what I did with these beforehand is I just soaked them in some water. About 5 minutes. So, whether you're buying it fresh or whether you are buying it in a bag, certainly from the market, even so, you want to just soak your greens in a little bit of water, 5 minutes, cold water beforehand. And the reason why is because no matter where you get your greens from, they usually start to lose a little bit of their oomph. and we want to brighten them back up again. And when you soak greens in water, the molecules actually absorb of the greens absorb water, and that's why they freshen up again. So it'd be great if we did that myself. I'd love to sit in a bath and like all my wrinkles would go away, but oh well. So much for humans, we don't have the same thing, but vegetables do. So even sometimes if you got like a limp carrot, you might throw it in a bath of water and let that baby spruce back up again. And of course, right now, and though I don't have it here with me, the market has what they call Arrowhead Spinach, which is this later season spinach that's in the shape of an arrow. And it has some of the best flavor that you can find. So if you can find Arrowhead Spinach at your market, or if you're growing it, you're looking for something new to grow in your own backyard garden, Arrowhead Spinach is so fantastic and definitely in season now. I'm going to just use a little bit of red onion in my salad. In fact, I'm going to use a little bit of pomegranate seeds. Beautiful for opportunity of color and really nice juxtaposition to our persimmons. Let's look at those persimmons and see what we got going. I'll take the stove shut. Okay, so anytime that you are grilling, you better be on top of just kind of checking them out, because you don't want to obviously burn, and you just want to kind of try not to move it too much. Try to move it so that you can see if the marks are there, but if they're not, if you move it too much, then you change the lines. So by taking it simple and easy, we're going to let those go just a little bit longer. And I can even push down on that top. Okay, overhead shot, please. All right, so we're going to get together our salad dressing. Now, I have to say this grilled persimmon salad with maple spice walnuts is a salad that has kid approval. I had a kid, probably 10 years old, come up to me and say, that's my favorite salad I've ever had. So really nice salad, good dressing. And of course, with good dressing, we also learn more things that we can get both from the farmer's market this time of year and good for holiday gifts. And that can start off with some honey. So I've got some honey here and I've got some fresh thyme. And I just want to show you, of course, we're talking holiday gifts and things we can get at farmer's market. Honey comes in many flavors. Usually the darker has more flavor. And look at the interesting kind of honey this is. Can you see it? Poison oak honey. Very interesting. Comes from some local farm, 408 area code, actually. So, honey is one of those things that's local everywhere. Oh, Los Gatos. This is coming from Los Gatos. So if you're looking for local gifts, no matter where you live, you might even not even be anywhere in California watching this video today. Honey is one of the local foods. Usually you can buy local honey in every state. Pretty much, people have it all times of year. And so definitely a fun local gift. Another good gift. Oh, I got some thyme. Let me take my thyme and get into it, just do a little thyme thing. So the thyme, fresh thyme is lovely. And of course, we want to learn in using our thyme, we want to learn the process of stripping. Oftentimes people don't use herbs because it takes too much time. Can thyme take too much time? I don't know. But anyway, stripping, all you need to do is take your fingers and pull down on your herbs. So often, especially for something like thyme, right, I can just pull down and then pop it off the other side. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time. If I go the opposite way, I usually pull the whole thing off, which isn't, so I want to go counter to how the thyme is. And then, the tops of the thyme stems are actually, they are edible. It's the bottom of the stems that are a little bit too hard. And we just want to, so that means that you can chop those stems up. If they're closer to the top, and in the bottom, you'll probably want to get rid of the stems. Now, I don't know about the answer to this with thyme, but I do know with cilantro, guess where the most flavor is in cilantro? The stem. So don't get rid of the stem when you're using cilantro. And it also doesn't get stuck in your teeth. So parsley stems are harder, thyme stems are harder, but cilantro stems are not. All right, we're going to flip over our fruit no matter where it is. And I got some, I don't have the best grill. I got a little bit of grill marks. I also have some of the grill on it. We have the, yeah, we do. So, you know, they could go a little longer. We could do a little bit better here. Didn't clean my grill that well. And of course, why do we grill fruit? Well, guess what? Fruit has secrets. The secret of fruit is it's sweet. We know that because it has carbohydrates. If I add heat to fruit, just like adding heat to vegetables, what happens to the fruit? It caramelizes. So we get the same thing. So we can take something that's already sweet and naturally heighten the sweetness by the process of grilling. All right. Okay, overhead shot. We're doing our salad dressing here. I've got my honey, poison oak honey, interesting. I've got my thyme. And here's the next thing. I just got this from a farmer's market, a really nice bottle of olive oil. I just was in Healdsburg. I can't dip it over too much because it's a brand new bottle. I think I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil into my dish. And I can add this all together. In fact, if you really want to make a quick dressing, just throw it all in the blender and operate at the same time. I can add oil in the end to allow the whisking and the mixing to happen more efficiently by adding it slowly. But for here, I'm just going to add it all together, at least one of the oils. And olive oil, this type of farmer's market, unfiltered olive oil costs a little bit more money, but great flavor, great flavor. So perfect gift. You know, I love those Christmas sweaters. I never wear them anymore that you gave me. And this year, quite honestly, I don't want it anymore. Don't give me earrings. Give me something I can use. Give me culinary gifts. Give me something that I will use up. And there's so many wonderful culinary gifts to do that. I'm going to add some mustard, but you know, a lot of recipes say Dijon mustard to basically keep you from buying a yellow mustard. But if you don't have Dijon, let's see, how about the overhead shot? If you don't have Dijon, you know, usually these fancy mustards that are mixes of things this way are often made from a quality Dijon. So anytime you see that, you can use different types of mustards. And I'm just going to use what I had in my refrigerator, because it's nice to get variation. Of course, mustards become also a wonderful opportunity to give a gift. I have some sherry vinegar. Sherry vinegar is one of my favorite vinegars to go into a salad dressing. It is a more refined red wine vinegar. I think it's 2 tablespoons for the recipe. And, you know, the red wine vinegar is often too acidic and the pH is, you know, it's too acid. The pH is too low. And I want something that's more refined, more aged. If you give a little age to a vinegar, you can mellow out that kind of tanginess that none of us enjoy. And so a nice vinegar, and certainly take your red wine vinegar up by using a sherry vinegar. I'm going to add a little salt and a little pepper. And I do have just pepper here. I didn't have any white pepper, but this is another perfect gift from Laura's Top 10 is a white pepper grinder. So this is black. I actually need to buy some white pepper myself. I love white pepper. It has a little bit more fruity, a little bit more herbaceous, kind of complex flavor, and not so much pant that black does. So most people have a black pepper. No, I can't say most people have a black pepper grinder, because actually I've cooked in a lot of your kitchens and you don't have a grinder. So first off, perfect gift, pepper grinder. Really want to surprise them? Get white peppercorns and put them in. I love these little pepper grinders. I get them at Crate and Barrel. I've got all kinds of them. They're $10. So you can have like the most favorite gift that someone's going to get for, you know, approximately 15 to 20 bucks, depending on how much your white pepper is. White pepper grinder. We'll mix that all together. So honey, I got olive oil, I got sherry vinegar, I got Dijon, I've got some fresh thyme, some salt and some pepper. And then I am going to add one of the oils at the end. The recipe says walnut oil, but I happen to have in my pantry right now some toasted pumpkin seed oil, which is perfect for the season and also just an interesting addition. It's got a real dark color. You can almost see the dark here on it's like a real dark green. I'm just going to add about a couple tablespoons of it. Really dark, yeah. You can see how dark it is. So, you know, the reason why you may not use something if you wanted to experiment with I mean, a good quality walnut oil, another great gift, another great addition, certainly for this time of year. Pumpkin seed oil, because the color is darker, it can get in the way of showing the food off depending on what you're making. So just remember that you're going to get a darker, if you wanted to experiment with something like a pumpkin seed, you're going to get a darker look of your salad dressing than you would if a walnut oil, because usually walnut oil is a much lighter color. Let's give it a taste. Okay, so when you taste anything, you want to go through your list of ingredients and see if you can taste it all. You know, do I taste the vinegar? Do I taste the mustard? Do I taste the honey? Do I taste anything too much? Do I taste anything too little? And that's where you want to adjust. Now, to me, I feel like I need a little bit more oil in this mix because I'm getting a good hit of the vinegar. And again, I didn't even measure. So I think my measurements on the recipe are good. But a salad dressing is really a fine balance between that oil and vinegar that do not mix, right? They don't connect. They oppose the molecules oppose each self. And then we add the Dijon or some type of mustard often as what they call an emulsifier, which coats the oil molecules with the Dijon, and so that it can attract the vinegar next to it, right? That's what the emulsifier or the mustard serves as. And then the salt and usually a sweet will be nice because the sweet kind of mellows out the acid. And the salt, of course, brings out the flavor of everything. When we salt, we don't want things to taste salty. We use salt to make things taste more like themselves. I'm going to add a little bit more of my really good quality olive oil that I got from the farmer's market. All right, so who's got the answer while we're finishing up here? Class is finishing up. How old is that average apple in your grocery store? Let's taste it.
So we do have an answer.
Oh, yeah.
Someone put 3 months. Someone typed in 3 months.
We got 1 3-monther. Okay, well, God, wouldn't it be nice if that was what our food system was about, that you would get an apple 3 months old? No, don't believe me, actually. This statistic comes from MIT and Target. I was a student at the Culinary Institute of America, and I went to a presentation there, conference a couple of years ago, and the guy from MIT was talking about, local food or whatever, and he said that he found out in association with Target that the average age of the apple in your big box stores is 14 months. 14 months to harvest because of the distribution system. And may I just say that in this whole infrastructure bill, which, whatever you think about it, we didn't even talk about food. We never talk about food as infrastructure. There was no food in the infrastructure bill. How come food always gets the bad shot? So, and why does it need some attention? Because the average age of your apple is 14 months. They harvest them, they put them in storage, they use gases to draw everything out of them besides the sugar and the starch. And then when it comes time that they want to serve them to you, they add some ethylene, which is a chemical that ripens things naturally occurring in vegetables. And then they shoot the apples up, and basically all you're eating is starch and sugar. And no wonder why they don't have any flavor. So the reason why we eat seasonal is because seasonal gives us, well, it's definitely environmentally. We get a better bang for our greenhouse gas emission buck. But we also want to eat seasonally because when we eat seasonally, we get better tasting food that lasts longer and has more sugar and costs less. So we eat seasonal because we are eaters who really want good tasting food. And the best food you can get is your food at the farmer's market. You're not going to get better tasting food as far as vegetables and fruits and even meats goes. I'm just going to drizzle some of our dressing on top. So that's why we eat at the farmer's market. We eat at the farmer's market because it is in our best interest. Now, when it comes to local eating, though, we also have to remember that local isn't always the answer. I have a presentation that we did when the book came out, so I don't have the greatest grill marks on my persimmons. And of course, I would want to do this beforehand and have the persimmons cool down, right? But I wanted to do it live. And then you can cut them into any kind of shapes you want. I usually change my shape, but you could serve it warm, but better to, the nice thing about the grilling of the persimmons is you can grill them obviously beforehand. And then when comes time for dinner, then you can just assemble. And remember, anytime that you're presenting something, height is attractive to us and odd numbers. So instead of putting like 2 or 4, what is sexy is odd numbers. What's sexy to the eye, is odd numbers, not even. And then I just want to take a regular peeler and I have dry jack cheese, which is a local product. They actually was, I think, even invented maybe in Sonoma. And I can just lightly pull off some nice wisps of cheese as the addition. And of course, I ended up adding my beautiful candied nuts as well. And let's look at our casserole. Let's see how our casserole is doing. It's probably, I don't know, it's been about a half an hour. I think we put it in at 35 minutes too. And let's check to see what it looks like. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, so this could use just a little bit more time, but we're going to take it out because the time has come to move on. Let me bring that up closer. We've got some lovely, boiling is bad, simmering is good. This is, and you'll notice the bubbles are just, they're doing that very low, slow kind of ability to reduce the size or to reduce the liquid, but still not doing it harshly, so that we have that ability for the flavors to meld without being insulted by the process of boiling. All right, so what do we have for you, dear Santa Clara? We have our gorgeous grilled persimmon salad with some dry jack cheese, some arrowhead spinach for Zay, and our candied maple walnuts. And then we also have our cassoulet with our beans and farmer's market vegetables. We did a change with the topping, which is why the topping is a little bit more of a brownish color. And that's because I added some buckwheat flour and some freshly ground oat flour to the topping. And unlike what the recipe says, there are 2 things that I did not do. 1, I did not add my Parmesan cheese to the mix. So I could always put it on top and broil it should I want to finish it like that. I forgot to add it in, which I don't even follow my own rules, which is look at your recipe and make sure you add it in. And then I also did I did the melted butter, and I actually like the melted butter better. The recipe just says to to mix it in either with your hands, cut it in small cubes. But what I wanted is I wanted it to be a little more clumpy. And so I like the effect of the melted butter. So I think I'm going to change that the next time I do it. And let's just give it a taste while we're here. righty, I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure.
Should you have?
Oh, just to state, someone pointed out that the next class on December 4th, the registration is closed. So we're definitely, the first thing I'm going to do when I leave here is make sure that that's corrected so that you'll be able to register for the class. I think that we made a mistake when we were posting both of them and had the same date. And so we'll correct that. But a question for you is, why is butter included in a recipe from Southern France? What disadvantage is there to use only olive oil in the first recipe you made?
Yeah, well, butter, of course, will give us butter's got a more nutty contribution. But if you are not having butter, you are more than welcome to always substitute. I would do an extra virgin olive oil. Again, make sure that it isn't a non-filtered. Make sure it is a filtered extra virgin with a smoke point of 375 to 425 as compared to a non-filtered, which is usually a lower smoke point. So yeah, absolutely. It is your choice. I don't know, cassoulet, what do you mean? What? Of course, butter belongs in a recipe from France. Wait, the dead French chefs are turning over in their grave. Why did I add the olive oil is the question, but they're interchangeable. You could use all butter. You could use oil as well.
Okay, another question was, I don't use most of the spices that you're using today. Where do I buy a few teaspoons of the spice for the recipes?
Oh, so you want to get small amounts, which you are right on. You want to go, hopefully they still, I know different Whole Foods, go to a natural food store and buy it in bulk. From what I remember, the Palo Alto Whole Foods, of course, you guys may be more in Santa Clara, but who knows? People are from everywhere because this is online. So I will just say from where my area is, some of my grocery stores most of my grocery stores do not have spices in bulk. The Palo Alto Whole Foods used to, but I think they took it out. But the Los Altos Whole Foods still does. Probably the Stevens Creek does as well. Rainbow Grocery in the city, I was just there. They have all kinds of spices. So really, your best bet for these kind of crazier spices. And the one spice I did not add that was in the recipe was cardamom, because I didn't actually have any today. I was surprised. I must have used it up for a class. You are always better bet buying smaller amounts, and just look in a natural food store for bulk, and certainly around Santa Clara. I would assume the Whole Foods in San Jose has bulk, but I don't know. There's a few of them in San Jose, and I bet the one on Stevens Creek still sells bulk, and I know the one in Los Altos smaller. This is small. They made them smaller, but some of them still have. So, and definitely if you want a field trip, if you're just looking for a fun time, go to Rainbow Grocery in San Francisco or go to Berkeley Bowl in Berkeley. Both of those stores offer so much that we just don't have down here. And it's a fun outing. If you've never been to either of those stores, put it on your holiday, what to do list, and just have a fun time looking around either of those stores.
All right. Another person says, I don't like sage. What can I use instead?
Oh, well, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. So any of those, you don't like sage, eliminate it. Thyme is great. Parsley's great. Rosemary's great. And it grows outside, hopefully. Those are kind of our Thanksgiving types of spices that we use a lot. So I used basil today because I had extra basil and I only had so much time and I wanted to use it in my salad dressing. So what's great about this, certainly the cassoulet, is that things are so interchangeable. And really as cooks, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for options to, one, I think bringing more beans into my diet. That's really what this is about. It's something that's warm that I can serve. It has vegetables in it. And I like the addition of celery, by the way, which I did add, which is, a vegetable that isn't as on the starchy end. So I am experimenting on you guys here a little bit. Then we can add really anything into this type of dish. And here I am even substituting flours and things like that so that it gives us, because actually, flours teach us a little bit about farm to fork and the importance of, what the way that we grow food is all monocropping for the most part. The machine cuisine is what I talk about in the book, Cool Cuisine. Machine cuisine is all about making maximized dollars and the easiest way they can have all these huge pieces of equipment. So we're not operating or growing our food like it's food any longer. And we certainly just don't want acres and acres and acres of wheat, because that's the only grain that you and I eat. So when we introduce new grains into our diet, like buckwheat and oats and, barley, millet, and all these things, we're doing something, we're doing a favor to our taste buds. We're doing a favor possibly to things associated with eating too much of one food, like allergies, but we're also helping the planet out as well. So, and definitely, let's taste the buckwheat in here, see how it tastes. I like the addition of the buckwheat. The buckwheat stays. The buckwheat's gonna, and the oats too.
We have another person who doesn't like mustard, and can she leave it out? He or she leave it out of the dressing?
Absolutely. So of course, now mustard in the dressing is different than mustard. Mustard's an easy flavor. It's a simple flavor. You could leave it out of either, but you're going to have more success in leaving it out of the cassoulet than you would out of the salad dressing. And again, the salad dressing, when you add mustard to it, it serves as what they say is an emulsifier. The oil and vinegar don't mix. So what the mustard does, or something like that, if you add an egg yolk, like if you're making a Caesar dressing, or even like sometimes, if you're adding like a grated cheese, these things are coating the molecules of oil so that then the vinegar can stick. So if you leave it out completely and don't substitute it with a different kind of emulsifier, again, sometimes a grated cheese or a mayonnaise or whatever I just said that I just forgot about what I said, something like a cream cheese or a sour cream, something that will coat our olive molecules, you'll end up with a dressing that doesn't combine that well. And, maybe that's what you end up. I mean, quite honestly, often when I'm making salad dressing at home, I don't make it. Because I'm coming home, I've been cooking all day. I might have a salad. This is terrible. I just sprinkle a little vinegar on, sprinkle a little oil on, top it with salt. Oh, and of course we want to top another great gift, overhead shot if you can give it. Is some of this flake salt. Flake salt, fantastic gift. It's flaky. And it's a wonderful thing. If you don't add any salt at all to your dressing, you might just add a little bit of flake salt on top, because it gives that salt. You have more control, of course, even of the salt. And it also gives us a crunch. And what causes us to eat more is variation in our diet. Whether you're eating healthfully or non-healthfully, you want variation of flavor, as well as variation of texture, as well as variation of the cuts of things, as well as the variation even within vegetables themselves. An avocado is not a tomato, is not a carrot. So variation causes us to eat more, and anytime we can add it, i.e. add a little crunch to something, maybe not a flake salt, maybe just a nut. We have nuts in the salad too. We are on our way to entertaining our taste buds more. Look at how lovely that sun's coming right through the back window. To entertain our taste buds. And, you're not just feeding your mind and stomach. You're not just feeding the microbiome. You are feeding your brain, and you're feeding your brain. Your brain wants to be satisfied, and we find ourselves wanting, a complexity of flavor, because it's like putting a ping pong ball in our brain, and it's kind of going bong, 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 and it's catching our attention. And so variation is really important when we're looking at cooking. And we can achieve that through texture, through flavor, and through the sheer act of cutting something differently will give us variation too.
All right. So when you asked the question about the apple, we had several people who came up with 1 year as their answer. And then when you gave the answer, 14 months, someone wrote in gasp, and then suggested we grow our own. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. The only place I've ever heard that, and I know the statistic was true. I hope they've made progress. Again, the gentleman's name was Caleb Allen. He was the speaker. He's no longer with MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, but he was doing research projects for the whole food program that they've got going at MIT. And it was through him and Target that statistic came. And I'm shocked by that. I mean, no wonder why you don't want to eat the apples. Now, at Safeway and at Target. Now, Whole Foods, I think, does better. And you can almost tell the apples that don't look so phony haven't been, stuck in basically suspended animation for, for practically a year. It's crazy what we're doing with our food system. And really, eating seasonal is a way that you can combat that problem until we start talking about food as infrastructure. And of course, we're doing it a little bit, and everybody's doing it a little bit, but we've got a lot more to go to improve our food system. And until then, we want to support the local farmers or grow your own. Yeah.
So we have a participant who really loved your thankful plate and wanted to know where you bought it.
Oh, thank you for noticing. I got all these things. Yeah, thankful. I got that plate from Crate and Barrel. And they probably don't have it this year. I think I got it a couple of years ago, but who knows, online you can find anything these days. So there's so much fun that you can have from at the holidays. I love all these accoutrements. I'll have all the Christmas crap out for December. So come back. You get to see more of Laura's holiday plates and fare.
Right. So we have someone who wants to know what's the best way to cook pork chops.
Oh, the best way to cook pork chops. Okay, well, I'm plan forward. So meat is not my enemy, but it is not my muse. I think pork chop under a broiler. I used to have an old boyfriend who made me pork chops with bone in under the broiler, and those were great. And tenderloin, of course, for 'tis the season. Mix a pork tenderloin with a little, mix a little apricot jam with a little stock, a little soy sauce, and maybe a little mustard. Whisk that up and put that over. Broil your pork tenderloin for about 10 minutes. And then spray some of that sauce on top of it, and then put it under the broiler again for another 5 minutes. That's one of my favorite ways to, especially this time of year, pork chops, the tenderloin under the grill, or again, just under the broiler. Gosh, who doesn't like pork? And what I wanted to, hey, you bring up a good thing about pork, because we didn't get into this, and of course this class is on seasonality, but this type of cassoulet, you can certainly add in if you don't like beans, add in the rotisserie chicken leftover that you have from last night. If you have some sliced beef, add that in as well as the beans, or instead of. Or something we did for the class, but we didn't have time to do today. I like to use meat as a condiment now in my cooking, because there's a lot of people who like meat, and we can gain that flavor, but we don't have to have it be the center of the plate. So I make something for this cassoulet called bacon Gamacio, and that's basically bacon cooked, crumbled up with a little bit of toasted salt mixed together and sprinkled on top. And that way we can get that flavor of the animal products as a condiment, instead of making the focus of our food be meat. And so as we learn to adjust our diets so that we are more in tune with our seasons and more in tune with our own bodies, we may not give up meat, but always think that you can use it as a side dish instead of the main dish. And that's really the way that we eat best for our own bodies, for certainly the animals, and of course for the planet as well.
Well, we have lots of people that said, looks amazing. And I learned a lot of things today. And someone said, Chef Laura is an excellent speaker, educator, entertainer, humorous, practical, and local. Please have.
I didn't pay that person to say it. I've been watching all that jazz lately, the Bob Fosse, Gwen Vernon movie. And so what do they say? All that jazz.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming today, man. We really enjoyed you. Cooking is fun, and we want to continue to learn how to put our energy in the food because the energy of the cook goes into the food. The energy of the food goes into the cook. It's a beautiful dance that happens. And at this time of year, when we do want to give something of ourselves, don't forget that, you know, food gift could be some of the best gift that you give. As I go over to my nuts now that have been cooking, you know, that they've become now not hot. So now I can just remove them and they're crispy. And then, you know, just go to Cost Plus. I find Cost Plus has cute glass jars that you can buy to put your nuts in, or of course you just use an old salsa container or something and don't have to buy something new, and then reuse some of the things that you already have in your kitchen, and then you put a little bow on it. And everybody loves these nuts. Do we have it? Yeah, everybody loves these nuts too. They're just really nice. They're easy. Because I was talking, thank you for the vote of confidence, but half in the middle of baking the nuts, go back into the oven and just mix them up again. That's what I didn't do. I didn't set the timer, which is sitting right here. But so if you mix them up, then that will give that solidifying spice maple syrup mixture a chance to spread out to some of the outer areas, and you'll end up with a better quality finished product.
We have a couple more questions if you are able to. Okay.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
How do you choose good olive oil, and where's the best place to purchase it?
Well, so I would say the best place is one place is the farmer's market. And I know there are tastes being allowed at farmer's markets again. We're getting out of that, you know, COVID thing where we weren't allowed to taste. And, you know, I can tell you what I like, but it doesn't matter what I like, because what matters is what you like. You and I live in completely different palatial worlds. Our palates, like our thumbprints, are totally unique, which is why you may not like cilantro or olives. And I can't say that you're crazy. Well, I can kind of say you're crazy because I think you are, but I can't really say you're crazy because you are different than me. So with olive oil, with wine, you're like, now is the time that your brother is going to come over with his favorite bottle of wine. He's going to tell you how much it goes with the turkey. You kind of taste it and you don't like it. Don't think that he knows more than you. Your palate is different, right? So the best thing you can do is actually have an olive tasting party. Instead of buying your friends something, invite them over for an olive oil tasting party. Buy 5 bottles, some bread, bring in some wine or some, some mocktail cocktails. We've got a lot of fun recipes for those. You know, if you're not drinking alcohol too. This is a side note, but alcohol. If you're not drinking alcohol, and you want a drink that's satisfying, I want you to think about complexity, because what I learned during dry January when I did it last year was complexity in a drink is as important as complexity in a meal. So if you remove alcohol, which often has the complexity of flavors, and you don't use something like bitters or even like, just even lemon and lime and stuff, kind of work with some complexity. May not be satisfied. So taste different olive oils. The best way you can find out what you like is to taste and do a comparison. And other than that, you can try, again, the thing about the olive oils at the farmers markets, and of course now 'tis the season, now they're starting, the harvest is happening, the presses is happening, is that they're usually higher quality, more complexity, not necessarily filtered, so not good for sauteing, but great for salad dressings and as what they would call a finishing oil that you add at the end of a dish, like drizzling on a little bit of oil here could be an option too, like right on top, and would also make any pictures prettier. So yeah, find what you like and start at your farmer's market.
Okay. Someone said, can we replace wine with tomato sauce?
Okay, so wine is the deglaze. I definitely don't replace it with tomato sauce, because with the deglaze liquid, something that's going to pick that fond up from what you're cooking, you want something that is that is a liquid. And again, it can be an apple juice, it can be the leftover juice in the olive jar, it can be the beer you're drinking, it could be water. But why wouldn't you use water to deglaze? no flavor. So we always think about flavor, but if you don't have anything and you know, you are better off deglazing your pan with water and picking that fond up and putting it back in your food than deglazing with nothing and throwing your fond down the sink. In the casserole dish, you certainly don't need to add the wine. If you wanted to add something like a wine, but you didn't want the alcohol, I want you to look for a product called Verjus. It's Verjus. It is a rarer product. You don't necessarily see it in all the grocery stores. It is an unfermented grape juice. And that is an option for you as if you would like to use something, or of course there are non-alcoholic wines, you know, and again, the complexity. If you add a tomato paste, certainly you could add a tomato paste to this. You absolutely can. I encourage you to buy it in the tube as compared to the jar, or no, either the jar or the tube as compared to the can, because if you did a taste test, and we've done this in different classes, between canned tomato paste, jarred tomato paste, and the stuff in the tube, by far the jar and the tube win, because cans and tomato don't necessarily always go together, even if they take the precautions of not wanting the acid to mix with the aluminum. And of course the BPH, or, you know, a lot of cans are lined, and then the lining is a problem. Anyway, so your best with tomato paste is to not use the can, use a different product. Of course, if you added it, you would have a different flavor. I wouldn't add a lot. I might add like a tablespoon at the most, because really what you're looking for is flavor. And you know what tomato does is tomato is rich in umami, that fifth taste, sweet, sour, salty, bitter. Umami comes from the Japanese cuisine. It is the rich, deep flavors we get most often attributed by eating meat. It comes from glutamic acid, which is an amino acid that actually, if you taste it, glutamic acid, and you can buy glutamic acid as a powder online, oh my gosh darn, it tastes like meat. That's why we love umami, or glutamic acid, and we can get that from our animal products, but we can also get it from some vegetable products such as mushrooms, eggplant, roasted peppers, soy sauce, miso, and tomato. So when, you know, why do we add tomato paste to meatloaf? Because umami begets umami. When you have the meat and the tomato, you add them together, and the tomato tastes, the meat tastes more like meat. So it can bring those flavors out in a dish such as this. And actually, because in this particular dish, I don't have any meat, it might be a really good addition because it gives me some of that umami in a vegetarian, vegan dish.
All right. One person missed the name of the store that you recommended in Berkeley.
Berkeley Bowl. Berkeley, BOWL. What a store. I'm serious. If you've never been to Berkeley Bowl or Rainbow Grocery, you must go to one by the end of the year, because they're amazing. And if you haven't gone to, like, you've gone to one and you liked it, then you got to go to the other one. Gosh darn, I wish someone would open something like that on the peninsula. Those stores are fantastic. And, you know, because they've got the craziest things there. And of course, the nice thing about those stores is people buy crazy things. What did I just buy from? I bought all kinds of stuff. You know, I bought like astragalus root and hawthorn berries. I'm going to do a mulled wine with some astragalus root and hawthorn berries, believe it or not. But I mean, the thing about those stores is there's a lot of people that shop there and buy the weird food. Don't go to stores that, you know, you might want to buy like the rutabagas and the parsnips, but if you go to Safeway, often they're like limp because nobody buys rutabagas and parsnips at Safeway. I mean, maybe you do, but most people don't. And so they're not as good quality. So whenever store you go to, and of course, farmers market is really the best quality, you want that change out to happen. You don't want to be buying old food, you know, from grocery stores. So go where there's a lot of people shopping, because you'll get the best food, unless you go to the market, and then you're going to get food that was harvested. If not that morning, it was harvested the day before.
Okay, so someone recommended Sprouts has the bulk spices.
Oh.
Um, Someone really likes your stove and how you use it.
Small stove, small house, small stove, big heart.
Someone says there's a place in Campbell that has all kinds of olive oil, but they didn't say where. Oh, but then they gave a website, www.theolivebar.com.
Yes, those things are out there. There's one in Santa Cruz too, or it used to be. I don't know what's open, but those are really good places to go try olive oils and vinegar, are those bars. Yep.
Yeah. So then someone is asking, are you familiar with some of the local farmers markets? Any favorites?
Oh, favorites. Well, the best market on the peninsula is the Mountain View Farmers Market. I've actually, a lot of the recipes in this class, before we started to do the online thing, I did a whole series of, for a number of years, both with the California Farmers Market Association and the Portola Valley Farmers Market Association. I was the chef in residence who would come and basically just takes food and cook with it, right? Whatever we could get at the market. And so this class really came from there. We would just start developing recipes with what was in the market. And so I'm very familiar with the markets, actually, even around outside of the area of the peninsula, because of the work with California Farmers Market Association. Not doing that now because none of that is happening still with COVID. There's no live cooking demos happening yet. But yeah, in our area, the best market is, San Jose's got a couple, but the biggest market in our area would be the Mountain View Sunday Farmers Market.
Excellent. This was such a wonderful presentation. As always, I haven't seen Laura cook up many, many dishes. And we are very happy that you were able to make this presentation, and we're going to get the registration fixed for Saturday on December 4th at 2:00 for the next program, so that we can all join you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming into the kitchen, you guys. It's really nice to have you in my home, and we'll see you on December the 4th. Remember that the best foods that we can eat for our own health are the best foods for the health of the animals and the health of the planet. So let's change the world with great tasting food, shall we? Together we can make a great meal and a great difference.
Thank you. Bye.